Hi, welcome to Unnecessary Roughness, Barstool's college football podcast, brought to you by High Noon Hard Seltzer, that delicious drink that Casey is about to tell you all about.
Right between Jack and I is the new El Prez pack, which is a limited edition, the passion fruit pineapple pear, and the new flavor, Jack, the tangerine. Now that it is physically in your presence, have you tasted it yet?
I've not tasted the tangerine yet, but this is the closest I've been to it, physically speaking. So
yes, it is in your vicinity.
It's in my vicinity, and man,
it's like right here.
I just want to.
You're just
drink
touching
it right now. Yeah, I'm touching
it's like this.
it.
It's like on Space Jam.
Yes.
You're just like absorbing it.
100%.
It is. I've said this every episode since we were in Madison. I tried it for the first time in Madison. I had multiple because they are that good. They're absolutely delicious. Dave got to handpick, obviously, what the Prez pack was going to look like. He said he had a bunch of different options, but he was, like I said, why didn't you do four Ps? Because you have passion fruit, pineapple, and pear in the El Prez pack, and then you have the tangerine. He said because the tangerine was too good. He said it was just absolutely too good. He had to throw it in there. So if you're listening, watching, and you haven't tried it, go get it. Drizzly, liquor stores, convenience stores. Of course, they have all the flavors as well. We all know how I feel about the peach. They have the tequila. They've got the big boys. Katie usually has them in her hands. She does not have the big cans in her hands today.
The tall cans. Tall boys.
Tall boys, big cans. We love the big cans. Shout out High Noon Hard Seltzer. Brandon, your new studio looks great.
I've worked very hard on it. I've gotten all the I've gotten all the tech ready. I've worked on the tech. I've worked on everything in here. I've done it pretty much single-handedly. So welcome into my studio. I don't even know what you can see, but I have I have my football. I got my PlayStation 2. I got my Outcast right here. So everything is good. Everything is good over here in Chicago.
May I ask you a question about the mug? So if people are listening and they can't see it, the Bugs Bunny mug. Have you had that for a long time? Because I feel like I used to have cups that looked like that when I was a child. Like, is that a new mug or is that old school?
I went to the antique shop looking for stuff last week, and this mug and this He-Man and the Masters of the Universe lunchbox were in the antique shop. So I bought them both.
So it's old school. It's vintage. I'm pretty sure I used to get those at like Six Flags over Texas when I was like a very young child.
Maybe
that would make sense.
Maybe.
I can see that. At
Looney Tunes land, you know?
Yeah,
and I'm pretty like I'm sure somewhere at my parents' house they're stuck away, or I don't know, probably thrown away. Those aren't things that you keep. But it sent me back to my childhood is my point.
No, 100%. I don't think I had it, but I definitely have seen. That's a very 90s aesthetic.
Yes.
1992.
All right.
That would make sense. I was 3 years old. I can remember that.
Who are the two men behind you? Dolls?
Okay. Relax. This is Andre 3000 of Outkast.
Nice.
And
yes.
This, if that's Andre 3000, does anybody know who that is?
No.
Will I Am.
My God. Katie?
I don't know. Dak?
Is that not Deion Sanders?
Well, Deion
oh my God.
is his number. It's his number, but
It's not Deion. It's
No.
Jadakiss.
Holy shit. The whitest podcast that's ever.
Or just young.
yeah, or just young.
Andre 3000 of Outkast.
Yes.
Big Boy of Outkast. It's Outkast.
I mean, you asked me anything about 2000s and 2010s rap, I would know it. I just don't know.
You put Lil Wayne up there, we would know.
Yeah. I know Young Money.
Hell yeah. The Hot Boys back in the day.
Yeah.
It's big. Okay. Whatever. It doesn't matter. Let's move on. Okay.
By the way, let's just say there'd be no way Brandon would ever have Deion Sanders in his studio. He does not like the man.
He likes Deion.
I like Deion fine. I just don't
I'm
go
giving you
over
a
the
hard
top
time.
and lie about him like everybody else at this fucking company.
I'm giving you a hard time.
Okay. Everybody else at this company believes he's not going to like us if we're not nice to him. No, we can tell the truth
No.
about his team.
Relax.
Okay, you relax.
It was just a joke.
You relax.
You
Okay.
relax.
The College Football Playoff Committee released their first ranking for 2023 last night, and I look at it, and first of all, the first ranking doesn't matter even a little bit, but I look at it. Ohio State number 1, Georgia 2, Michigan 3, Florida State 4. That's the first 4. Washington and Oregon, with the Pac-12 representatives right behind them at 5 and 6. Texas, Alabama, Oklahoma 7, 8, 9. Ole Miss 10. And then you have Penn State, Missouri, Louisville, LSU, Notre Dame. That's your top 15. And then 10 more teams round out the top 25. But I look at it and I say, I think they got it exactly right. I think Ohio State should be the number one team in the country right now. Whether you believe they're the best team or not, they probably have the best. No, they have the best resume. They've beaten 2 top 15 teams on this list, one on the road, one at home. And they're the number one team. Georgia number 2, Michigan number 3. I have no problem with any of that. Does anybody in that room have a problem with that?
I don't have a problem with it because if you're going off of resumes, they clearly have the best resume thus far. But what's interesting to me about that is then why not have Washington in the top 4 when they clearly have a better win than Florida State, Michigan, and Georgia. So that's, and I, like you said, it doesn't necessarily matter what comes out this week. And I know, Jack and I were going back and forth in the group text about the way I think they're kind of propping up Ohio State, whether it's you agree with it or not.
Can I disagree with you right there? Can I disagree?
What?
Do you
Sure.
think they're propping up Ohio State?
I know when I say propping up, it sounds negative. I don't mean that. I'm saying that, like, if they're truly going off of resumes, then Ohio State has the best one. However, it is set up to say, okay, if they lose to Michigan, which is a big if, I understand that, then they would still be in the top 4, assuming other things in other conferences don't happen. Whereas if Michigan was to lose to Ohio State, they would drop out of the top 4.
But if Ohio State loses to Michigan, today is the top of their resume peak. Their resume is not going to get any better. They don't have any more big wins. And if they lose to Michigan, then their season's over.
But they did it last year. Like, they did this exact same thing last year, and they made it in the playoffs.
Okay.
Ohio State was 1 last year?
No, I'm saying that Ohio State made it in.
But last year we had a bunch of – the ACC didn't have an undefeated team. The Pac-12 didn't have an undefeated team.
There is a lot of different scenarios, which it would be really, really hard to do. However, if you have them at number 1 in the country and then they lose to a top 4 team, you could say, okay, well, we're not going to drop them out of the top 4, depending on what else is happening.
I don't think that's a strategic play by the committee. I don't think the committee said – we're going to put them number 1, and if they lose to Michigan, we're going to keep them in the top 4. I think that's just where Ohio State and Michigan both belong right now. I think Ohio State belongs at number 1 right now. What Jack just said is not kind of correct. It's correct. If they don't beat Michigan, their resume will take a hit down the stretch of the season, and we'll see. Because Penn State presumably would also lose to Michigan in that in that little area. So Ohio State's resume is probably as strong right now as it's ever going to be unless they beat Michigan. But I don't think Ohio State or Michigan are being put at 1 and 3 to set up anything in the future. I think that's just where these teams belong right now. And you said Washington, and I think that's a great point. Washington's undefeated. They're number 5, and they have a win over number 6 Oregon. However, when you talk about ranking somebody's wins, you acknowledge that is a good win right there. But I think you also have to look at their last 2 wins and acknowledge those have been very, 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 very weak wins. They barely beat Arizona State. They barely beat Stanford. So I think that's what keeps them out of that top 4 and not the lack of respect for their Oregon win.
I would have been fine with, in all truthfulness, I would have been fine. My ideal rankings would have been 1 Ohio State, 2 Georgia, 3 Florida State, 4 Washington, 5 Michigan. Because it wouldn't matter to Michigan. Because if they win every game on the rest of their schedule, they're going to be the number 1 team in the country most likely. I guess Georgia, if they just continue to be killing teams and then completely destroy Alabama in the SEC championship, they'll probably be number 1. But Michigan, this is why we have to react to it because we're a college football podcast and whatnot, but these don't matter at all, at least in my opinion. I do see what you're saying, like this scenario that plays out, but I feel like there's too many paths because we're 15 minutes in? Oklahoma and Texas, there's no way, in my opinion, if Texas wins out, that they would not get in as a conference champion over a 1-loss Ohio State to Michigan. Well, I don't think it's possible.
And that's where – sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. I got something completely different than that. You go ahead.
Oh, no. Well, I was going to say, that's where we've had this. I feel like every year we have this argument, and, Brandon and I especially have gone back and forth with conference championships where they're, how much they matter and how much they don't. Because I agree with you. You can't leave Texas out for avenging that loss. It really is going to come down to, obviously, if Florida State stays undefeated, if Washington or Oregon win, all of that's going to play out.
Is Florida State a little nervous?
No, I don't think so. Because I think they know that everything's in front of them, and all they got to do is win. I think they're going to be okay. Because if you look around, and we're projecting all these things, like what are the chances Washington, Oregon, Texas, everybody's kind of hanging on by a thread a little bit, and Florida State has the safety of 0 losses. A Power 5 undefeated team, I just can't imagine a world where they're not in.
And they have a really, really good win over a team that ranks, 14th right now?
Yeah.
And if they lose to Bama, they'll probably drop out. But that being said, even a win over LSU, if they lose to Bama and Texas A&M the rest of the season, it's still a good out-of-conference win.
So what you're saying is, like, obviously if Florida State goes undefeated, period, they're in. But if you're saying they go undefeated in the regular season and somehow lose in the conference championship?
They're fucked. They can't lose.
No, I don't think they can lose
Florida
either.
State
I don't think they can lose.
All I know is that I really want to be I want to be in a room with these people, because maybe just to be a fly on the wall or to be able to put input, but I really do, because the resume thing makes sense for Ohio State, and then you're like, okay, well, if Washington beat Oregon and they're right behind them, I would love to hear the thought process, or if they're at this point, they've done it for so many years where they're just like, look, the first ones don't matter, let's roll them out. And by the way, the Ohio State Michigan thing, for me, it could be any teams in the same division that are that good. It's not just because it's Ohio State Michigan. Like if it was Georgia and Florida, or Alabama and Ole Miss, or whoever it may be, but it'll be interesting. These don't matter. Let's talk about them.
My last point before we move on. Jack, you mentioned Georgia there and said they may or may not be the number 1 team if they went out and everything. I think Georgia's a very interesting team to watch going over the next 3 weeks, or 4 or 5 weeks. It was assumed they had a bad schedule, and it certainly hasn't been great to this point. But if you look over the next few weeks, they play number 12 Missouri this weekend. They play number 10 Ole Miss in a couple weeks. And then, presumably, they're going to get number 8 Alabama in the conference championship game. So all this hemming and hawing about how easy their schedule was going to be, they could play 3 top 12 teams over the next 4-5 weeks and really, really make a strong case for number 1 if they finish strong.
I'm just looking at the college football college football power index, which is the FPI at ESPN. Remaining strength of schedule: Michigan 1, Georgia is 6. Then there's a few others that are in there that really aren't in the race. But Georgia, I said they'll probably, if they beat Bama, they'd be number 1. If they destroy them, yeah. I think if Georgia wins out, they'll be the number 1 team.
Well,
because that's a 12-10, and then those will be 3 top 10 wins.
What you just said was correct. Michigan has the number 1 strength of schedule remaining. Georgia is 6th, but that doesn't take into account conference championship games. That's only regular season schedule, correct? And in the conference,
correct.
In the conference title game, Georgia would play Alabama. Michigan's going to play Iowa, Wisconsin, like somebody.
100%. So they probably have the number 1 remaining,
regular schedule.
And then Michigan probably is like 2 or 3.
All right.
Not to drag this out, because I know we're done, but like in that case, Jack, does that change your mind a little bit about if Georgia was to beat Ole Miss, Missouri, win out and go undefeated, and then lose in the SEC
championship? It would be interesting. That is a good point. I just feel I think Florida State fans should feel a little bit disrespected. They've handled everything thrown at them outside of a not great win at Boston College. Outside of that, they've destroyed everybody.
Yes.
Because I've bet against the other teams, and I remember specifically how they've won by 20, 30, 40 points. I feel Florida State's got to be like, man, we scheduled LSU.
Yeah.
We destroyed everybody except Boston College and Clemson. We've handled everything, and we're 4. I wouldn't have been mad if they were over Michigan last night.
But at the same time,
at least in my opinion,
at the same time, they're safely at 4, right? Like they're at 4.
Yeah.
They stay undefeated. They're going to jump the loser of Michigan, Ohio State. So they're really at 3.
And again, using the term propped up sounds like they're purposely doing it. I'm not saying they're sitting there like, we need to do this strategically, but there is safety built into it.
There is going to be a really tough scenario if, Georgia wins out, Michigan or Ohio State wins out, Texas wins out, Washington wins out, and then what do you do with Oregon if they beat Washington?
Well, we have
and Texas. There's a lot of situations that's why I asked, are Florida State fans a little bit nervous? I don't think they should be.
The 12 team playoff would be awesome this year.
All right, game time. the ticketing app of the ticketing partner of Barstool Sports. You should not have to worry when you're buying tickets to the next event. You shouldn't have to worry if you waited too late. You shouldn't have to worry if the tickets are too expensive. You shouldn't have to worry if you're going to get seats good enough. No, and with Game Time, you don't have to worry. Game Time knows exactly what they're doing. They're the fast and easy way to buy tickets for all the sports, the music, the comedy, and theater events near you. Myself, I like to go to football games. I, of course, work a lot during the week. People like Ben Mintz get to go to concerts every Tuesday night. He probably uses Game Time
but
as well.
But they have concerts if you are like Ben Mintz, or maybe you work on the weekends and you have Tuesday and Wednesdays off or whatnot. But like Brandon works, I mean, legitimately.
Or maybe, and I'm just going to throw this out, maybe you don't work on the weekends, yet you still somehow have Tuesdays and Wednesdays off.
That is also true.
More time to go to Game Time.
More time to go to Game Time and get tickets.
Game Time is, like I said, they're the ticketing app of Barstool Sports. They have deals on tickets right up to the start of the event. Even an hour after it starts, they're the place to find last-minute seats. You can find exclusive flash deals, sponsored deals on tickets for football, basketball, baseball, concerts, comedy, theater, and more. With Zone Deals, I'm going to tell you about Zone Deals right now. Okay, so you ready to hear about Zone Deals?
I'm ready.
With Zone Deals, you pick the section, Game Time picks the seats for an average of 18% savings. And the Game Time guarantee means you'll always get the best price. If you find tickets in the same section and row for less, Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. 100%? That would be lazy. No, 110% of the difference. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app right now. Create an account. Use code
RUFF
for $20 off your first purchase. Again, download the Game Time app. Create an account. Use code RUFF for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Create an account. Redeem code RUFF, $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last-minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. And if you were inclined to go to Game Time this week, you would have a chance to see games like Kansas State and Texas, Notre Dame, Clemson, Mizzou, Georgia, Washington, USC, LSU, Bama, and a whole plethora of other games. All right, this weekend we have some big games. We have some, and in fact,
it's a fantastic slate.
I think we have entered the time. It's November now, and things are real, and you can't fake your way through it anymore. And I think every Saturday from here on out is do or die for everybody, and it's just going to be an incredible November. This weekend we got Kansas State at Texas. We've got Notre Dame at Clemson. We have Missouri at Georgia. We have Washington at USC. We have LSU at Alabama. Those are the ranked on ranked matchups. Actually, USC's not
Before
ranked.
You continue,
yes.
I know we all do a billion shows and whatnot. Do we want to discuss Dabo? Do we? How I know you dressed up as him yesterday.
We have to.
I think we need to,
have
and
to.
I know, and I'm not.
And Central Michigan, we got to talk
and
about.
yes. And I know it's because we're all in the mode of like the games are big, but Dabo.
I mean, we have to.
Tyler, some people are woke to Tyler from Spartansburg.
Really?
Because it's a Clemson run radio show. Why didn't they cut him off? It was a 2-minute long question. Anyways, now Dabo's on TikTok. Here he is, right here for Halloween. Brandon, did you see him yesterday dressed up as Dabo?
Yes, I did. It was very funny.
Everybody
He did
check out
TikTok.
Mostly Sports.
And I'm glad that you brought that up because you're right. Like my brain has automatically like moved forward to this weekend,
I know,
and I'm
yeah.
going to Chicago today to do the college football show, so that's where my brain is. But thank God you did that because I need Brandon to be Dabo right now for a second.
Well, I'm not going to be Dabo, but I did find myself after years and years and years of calling out Dabo for being full of crap, for calling out Clemson for being a cult, for calling out that whole thing over there in South Carolina, I did find myself this week thinking I am in crazy town and every citizen is a Clemson fan. The fact that this man who built Clemson into one of the top 3 team programs in the country, who won 2 national titles, who has won 10 games 12 times, has won 11 games 8 times, who has been to 6 college football playoffs. The fact that this man built that at Clemson, South Carolina, and now, after a 4-4 start, 1 bad year, Clemson fans are calling his show Tyler from Spartanburg, and Jack, I don't know if it's a psyop or not, but I'm going to say it's not. But the fact that Tyler from Spartanburg is calling and actually saying the words, "We're 4-4, coach. Why are we paying you $11.5 million?" Oh, I got an idea, Tyler. It's because he fucking won 2 national titles at your punk-ass school in Whistle Dick, South Carolina. That's why you're paying him $11.5 million. The fact that
really.
What?
Sorry.
No. It's somebody in the room that he just looked over at because.
No, sorry. No, we as humans, we don't realize how good we have it when things are going well. You know, when you get sick, you don't remember how good it feels to just feel normal. We also, as humans, when we have something amazing and it changes a little bit,
Yeah.
we almost we look else places and we go, oh, where can we get this? Where can we get that?
The grass is not always greener.
Yeah, it really is.
Brandon, I have to say, if I could shake Tyler from Spartanburg's hand right now, not for his question, not for his buffoonery, but for the fact that he has somehow gotten you to side with Dabo on anything, I would. Because hell has frozen over. Because you're wearing that Clemson hat and you're defending Dabo, and I don't think that I ever thought that would happen.
No.
Ever.
Not enough.
I agree with you.
Listen, not enough people just realize. Take a second to realize over the last 16 years, Nick Saban built the greatest college football dynasty there ever was in Alabama. He's been the greatest coach ever. And during that time, Dabo Swinney went to Clemson, South Carolina, a place that hadn't won shit in forever. He went to Clemson, South Carolina, and built a parallel dynasty, a small dynasty, but a parallel one, where he's the only guy that figured out Nick Saban. He beat him twice in the national championship game. That is a phenomenal accomplishment. And that man, as unlikable as I think he's been in the past, as full of shit as I think he is sometimes, that man should be able to walk into any establishment in Clemson, South Carolina for the rest of his life, never have to pay for anything, and never be questioned at all by Clemson fans. Ever.
1,000%. And it took it even further where I saw on Twitter, Andy Staples, friend of the program, quote tweeted me. And this is a real tweet that he got. So he quote tweeted me and asked my opinion. He said, which fan base, this random guy, which fan base in your opinion is more frustrated with a national championship coach, Clemson or Texas A&M? And Andy quote tweeted me and was like, well, I assume it's A&M, right? And my brain exploded. I was like, I'm sorry. People are trying to compare these two. Clemson has national titles not since the 30s. And Clemson fans are trying to ask who's more frustrated. They have national championships to their name. I would kill for that. If I was Dabo, I would throw up every middle finger possible and be like, all right, if it's so bad with me, get rid of me and find somebody else. The grass is not greener because any program in the country right now would take Dabo outside of maybe 2 or 3, maybe.
I think Georgia would pass. They've got Kirby Smart. I think Alabama is too up their own. They like to smell their own farts too much to admit that
they have Nick Saban. They're not going to. That's fine.
Every other program would take Dabo in a heartbeat. Every single other one.
Ohio State fans will probably tell you that they wouldn't. They're lying. Michigan fans may tell you that. They're lying. Anybody in the world would want Dabo outside of Georgia and Alabama, and you might even get some Alabama fans if you put some truth serum in them that would say maybe Dabo has longer just because of Nick Saban's age. I don't know. But if Clemson fans are turning on this and trying to compare it to anybody else, you're a bunch of assholes. And stop being so selfish. Stop being so greedy.
And one more thing to Jack's point. We act like in sports, in college football particularly, a guy goes 11-1, a guy goes 12-0, a guy goes 13-0. We are excited. We're happy. We love him. Everything's fantastic. He can do that 10 years in a row. The millisecond he goes 4-4, the millisecond he starts losing close games, and I know he said it, and people think it's an excuse. Clemson absolutely played a close game against Duke and fumbled away their chance to win. They played an overtime game against Florida State and dicked away their chance to win. They've done it 4 times. NC State kind of thumped them a little bit. They were up 24-7 in the fourth quarter, but they've been close games. But the second Dabo goes 4-4, that fan base starts to turn on him. After everything he's done over a decade and a half, you want to take 1 month and a half stretch and say this is who that guy is? College football fans, not just Clemson, college football fans are the most spoiled ass bitches on earth, on planet Earth.
No question. And you know what? Credit to Dabo for having the grace that he does. And I know that, you like to poke fun. A lot of people like to poke fun about like how he carries himself and his, value system, whether it's true or not. You know how many coaches would have had a lot worse to say than he did in that situation? How many coaches would have not let, he handled that with, I think, as much grace as he possibly could, because I would have just gone crazy in that situation. I would have gone batshit.
All right. One last thing on this. A lot of the pushback against Dabo right now is that people don't think he's embraced the transfer portal and NIL so much. But here's the thing, Casey. Here's the thing, Jack. Dabo and Clemson already built their program on NIL, but not the type of NIL that you're thinking about. No. They built it on God's name, image, and likeness. See, that's
So
what
you
they
had
did.
to just turn it all around. Just imagine if
Hickory dickory dock, the mouse ran up the clock. 'Cause when he got the drip, and now he's on TikTok.
You're the worst.
Okay.
Can you imagine though if Mark Richt would have won a couple national titles at Georgia and then they would have ran him out? And I mean, obviously Kirby Smart is like the one example of what to do, but like that to me, it's like, what are you going to go do, Clemson fans? Who are you going to go get? This guy just won multiple national titles. You don't have another guy just waiting in the wing to be your head coach.
I'll say this. If Clemson fans want to get rid of Dabo, I think they should. And I think they should enjoy the next 30, 40, 50, 60, 70 years of irrelevance, because that's where they'd be headed.
1,000%. I'll take him.
All right, one more thing before we get to the games. Whether you believe anything's going to happen to Michigan or not, whether you believe their cheating was this terrible scandal or not, it cannot be denied that this is absolutely the funniest cheating scandal in the history of college football. We now have mystery men on sidelines wearing spy gear. We now have people online using all sorts of technology to put his face on this face. There was a mystery man at the Central Michigan State opener, and I'm just going to spoiler alert here. That mystery man, his name is Connor Stallions. Connor Stallions was on the sideline at Michigan State and Central Michigan, pretending like he was just a Central Michigan guy, wearing the whole disguise. He's literally wearing glasses with a camera in them. He's literally, every time when the ball goes near him, he puts his head down and covers his face. Casey, this is fucking hilarious.
It's hilarious, and I will say, as much as I've said, whether it's Michigan or not, defending the sign stealing part, like, this is obviously a different level, because you can't be having staffers on sidelines dressing up as other people. Like, that you just can't do. It's not okay. Obviously, there's probably not going to be a whole lot of repercussions, but there probably should be at this point.
Well,
However,
there might be.
There might be, but I'm saying, like, it's taken, the more that we find out, the more levels there are to this thing, that obviously it's not just like, hey, somebody was in the stands and was able to record the signs and the signals. Whatever. All that aside, I laugh my ass off every time I sign in to Twitter or Instagram or whatever and see the latest, because I cannot believe this man exists. I cannot believe there is a guy, and we laughed last week, like, oh, the manifesto and the 600-page thing, and like, you only hear manifestos in really bad situations. This guy is unbelievable. I don't know if anybody has ever loved a school and a football team as much as Connor Stallions loves Michigan. I really don't. And that is insane.
No, we do know that Connor Stallions loves Michigan more than anything anyone's ever loved in their life. We should be thanking God that he decided to write a manifesto about Michigan football and not, God forbid, something else. We've seen a lot of crazy things in this world.
Yes.
We still are waiting on confirmation if that was him on the sideline.
It has to be.
So the thing is, he's bald, but on the back, it does look like this guy has hair.
But how?
Sorry, But then also, if this was just a Central Michigan staffer,
we'd know.
We'd know by now. And also last night, as Katie put out on our Twitter, which, by the way, shout out Katie, who's taken over our socials pretty much 100% this year. They've been great. We wanted to give her a quick shout out.
Shout out, Katie.
Working on a few
Katie.
typos.
Oh, I mean, typos, whatever. Who cares about that? People make mistakes. That being said, she tweeted out this morning, Central Michigan coach Jim McElwain, who loves sharks, talking about it after last night's game, which is another aspect. Central Michigan had a game last night. They lost, but he said pretty much we're still looking into it. How much would you have to look into somebody who is your own staffer?
That's my first thought was, if it is clearly just someone on the sideline who they know, they would be the quickest fix of like,
And say, hey, it's this guy.
yeah, it's this
Yeah.
guy. So
Hey,
why is
everybody.
that not
Hey, who was that on
happening?
our sidelines? Oh, that was Steve. Oh, okay. That's it. That's
And
how
then
fast it
people
should have been.
Steve wears sunglasses at night.
And
Yeah.
people on Michigan Twitter who immediately went and called me disgusting names saying, hey, you stupid fucking fat idiot. It's this guy. If it was that guy that they've all been pointing towards,
Why isn't
why not?
Michigan
And then
Central
also
Michigan saying so?
you learn. So Jim McElwain, before he took the job at Central Michigan, he was kind of a assistant at Michigan. So were two other guys that are at Central Michigan now. Also, Michigan hired a player personnel from Central Michigan who's still on their staff. So there's obviously a little bit of a connection between the schools, which would make sense because, hey, they're the Michigan and Central Michigan don't really compete because, Central Michigan's in the MAC, Michigan's trying to win national championships. So you would say, okay, maybe there is a little something here. We'll see. If that is true, we continue to see how deep and far this goes, and
It's hilarious.
it is funny though. The
They
clip
can make
that
a movie
I quote
about this.
tweeted of him when the quarterback's running out of bounds, and he knows the camera's going over, and he's like this, and he's running away. Is so funny.
There's
Listen,
also, so I think Central Michigan is an Under Armour school or whatever they are. They're not Nike.
I think they're Adidas.
Adidas,
Okay,
and,
Adidas.
yes, and the
And there's photos of who people think is Connor Stallions wearing Nike shoes. Which again, that's not an end all be all. But
Yeah.
if you're a staffer, like you wear the right
yeah, no.
gear.
It's evidence.
Yeah.
Here's the
I'm totally in this. This is going to be a movie. It's phenomenal. Go ahead, Brandon. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
there's been a lot of discussion whether they will get punished. Could they get punished? Is it a small deal? Is it this? Is it that? I maintain from the start, people cheat. They cheat for a reason because cheating works. Now, the question I now have is, or anybody who says they're not going to get punished or this isn't a big deal, wouldn't this just open the floodgates up for every school to just do God knows what? I mean, this is beyond. Everybody speeds on the highway. I drive 65, Jack drives 67, Casey might drive 70. If Katie were Michigan, she'd be driving by doing 790 miles an hour. That's what Michigan is doing right now. That's how they're cheating. So somebody's going to get punished eventually, whether it's Michigan, Jim Harbaugh, a combination of both. Somebody's getting punished. The only question is how quickly, because I don't think how severely matters as much as how quickly. Because how quickly affects this year's national championship race, because people are pretending Michigan's still good enough to win a national championship because they haven't played anybody. But how quickly is very, very key to this.
I agree with you. And like I said, all jokes aside about how funny this is, like the more that comes out, the harder I can sit here and be like, every team's doing it, because not every team is doing this. And if Connor Stallion, if Connor Stallions is going to different sidelines and we've just see the Central Michigan sidelines regardless, you can't do that. I mean, that is just blatant cheating. How much did Jim Harbaugh know? How much did, the program as a whole know? All this is going to come out. Here's the thing, like we've said before, whether you vacate wins or not, you still won them. So if they don't do something this season with Michigan, and let's say they make it to the playoff, let's say hypothetically they win a national title or even just a Big Ten title, like no one's ever going to look back and be like, oh, they didn't actually win because they were cheating. That argument will happen, but they'll still have the hardware. So I agree with you there. Like I said, it's funny. We'll see how it plays out. Brandon, thoughts and prayers, not just to you, just to our entire show this week on the college football show, because I can only imagine it's going to go 5.5 hours long. But this is continuously a ongoing situation that just keeps getting worse and worse and funnier and funnier.
All right. Before we go any further, I want to tell you guys about something awesome, Shady Rays.
We do love Shady Rays.
'Tis the season of giving. And what you can do is you can get the perfect gift for a special someone or yourself. Or how about this? Both. Get a gift for somebody else and get a gift for yourself at the same time. Our friends at Shady Rays have you covered with premium polarized shades and quick swap snow goggles that won't break the bank. Shady Rays is an independent sunglasses company that offers an unrivaled product that's just as good as any expensive pair we've ever worn. They've got durable frames, world-class optics for all outdoor adventures. Jack, I must admit, I'm not somebody who's ever been snow skiing. I assume that Casey has. I assume that you have. I don't know about Katie. No, I'm going to go assume all of you have been snow skiing. I've
Yeah.
never
Yes,
had snow goggles, but I assume if Shady Rays makes them, they're probably pretty good.
And he's from a place where there's a lot of water skiing.
Fair. I'm questioning your snow skiing.
I've never heard it referred to as
Yeah.
snow skiing. I just call it skiing.
There's snowshoeing and skiing.
I
and
know
snowboarding.
exactly
I get
what he's talking
saying
about, but
because
normally
there's water skiing and whatnot.
But usually it's skiing
There's
and
another
water
form
skiing.
of skiing, but like I just
As somebody
have-
who's from Texas, I understand what he's saying. However, it's like skiing, snowboarding, or water skiing.
Yeah. Sorry, continue. We're
I have
But,
been
yes,
skiing, and let's
I
just
snowboard
say you
every year.
need
Yes.
it.
Well,
When
just
the sun is
let's let me step in there. There are two forms of skiing. There's water skiing, which you do on water, and there's snow skiing, which you do on snow. I'm glad I could step in and give you this public service announcement. Continue.
You know, it is a certain type, makes me feel a certain type of way because I go snowboarding. I don't just say I go boarding. So he is right.
no one says snow skiing, but when you go snow skiing,
Well,
you need
it's
goggles.
weird. It's weird, Katie, because I just said it, and I do feel like you guys are in your New York and your Northeast bubble, and you think anything that you say is what everybody else says. I think a lot of people in this country say snow skiing.
Okay, that's fair. But you know what? Regardless, like I'm terrible at snow skiing. I never learned how to
Pizza?
I always
Pizza,
did the
French
pizza
fry?
stop. That's why I snowboard. But either way, Brandon, snowboarding, snow skiing, you got to have the snow goggles. You got to
and
have
them polarized.
Yes.
They have an extensive... Boy, this one's off the rails. Shady Rays has an extensive array of styles and colors. You're bound to find the perfect pair of Shady Rays sunglasses. And if you're into winter sports, like...
Snow
Snowboarding.
skiing.
Thank you. Oh, boy. If you're into winter sports like snow skiing, their quick swap snow lenses now effortlessly between...
Effortlessly
okay.
between full sun to low light environments.
Yes.
Thank you very much, Katie. I appreciate that. Exclusively for our listeners, Shady Rays is giving out a very merry deal. Can somebody else
Katie,
finish
just do
the
it.
ad?
Katie, please.
I got it. Go to shadyrays.com and use code ROUGHNESS
Yes.
for 50% off 2+ pairs of polarized sunglasses. Try for yourself the shades that have been rated 5 stars by over 250,000 people.
It's a lot of people.
We'll get to our categories, but let's just pull out a few games real quick. I guess I got to start with LSU and Alabama. And, Jack, I'm going to just start with you. I noticed this earlier this week, and I even fell into the trap thinking, could two-loss LSU, make the playoff if they beat Bama, if they beat Georgia? I think something weird has happened with LSU and the fact that they were off last week and they've kind of been out of the spotlight for a couple weeks, and people have just suddenly assumed they're good again. Their defense is really bad. This is a big game because it's LSU and Bama. Why are people back on the LSU bandwagon all of a sudden?
Well, I guess, they're just such a powerhouse in terms of program recognition. They could and they have an offense that scores a lot of points. They fit the brand of, oh my God, this team is good. But the defense just is bleh. And maybe they can turn it around. But you are right. People just love this idea of LSU getting back in it. We know what they are. It would be really difficult for them to beat not just Alabama, but then Georgia. Also, they have other games left on their schedule, too, that aren't easy. So this idea that I know, because people fall in love with these big numbers. Like, oh, I got LSU 100-1 to win the national championship. All they got to do is this, that, the other. They're 100-1 because they have to do this, that, and the other. It's very low chance, and I just don't foresee it happening.
Yeah,
but
they have to beat to win the national title. All they have to do is beat Alabama. They have to beat Georgia. Then they have to beat maybe Michigan and maybe Georgia again, or maybe Texas. Yeah, that's all they have to do. And they couldn't beat Florida State and they couldn't beat Ole Miss. So that's all they got to do. Though.
Yeah, that's all they got to do. And on top of that, they also have to beat Texas A&M, who we know is a good team as well. So LSU and you also fall in love with them due to the fact they have a Heisman contender.
That's
and
the answer
Jaden
for
Daniels
me.
is, when you know the quarterback and you see they put up 50 points. This team almost lost to Arkansas, but also Alabama almost lost to Arkansas. So I do think this will be a really good game. But It could be okay, Alabama's here game as well.
Yeah, I mean, my quick and easy answer to that is Jaden Daniels. Like, people that aren't sitting and watching every single game every single week might not know just how bad LSU's defense has been this season, but they know how good Jaden Daniels has been. And, we've had this conversation on this show. Like, if you take away losses and you take away the way that these teams have played as a whole, Jaden Daniels should probably win the Heisman right now because his numbers are that good. Now, we'll see what happens down the stretch, but I think that's the answer, Brandon, is, well, they know they have a high-powered star at quarterback, and everything else just seems to kind of not matter until it matters when they play against Alabama.
Yeah, and this is historically, I mean, this has been probably the best rivalry in the SEC over a 10, 15-year period. These teams have been just so good for so long that it's always a big game. I don't know. I just think with that defense, it's going to be very hard for LSU to go into a hostile environment and win with a bad defense, and that's why I think Alabama just kind of handles business.
Especially because Jalen Milroe, too. I mean, for all the shit that he was given early in the season, like we've seen that he has definitely improved a lot throughout this season. I think Alabama's going to win, but I hope it's a great game. I mean, a night game in Tuscaloosa.
Now, let me just make a prediction real quick as we move. Were you about to say something, Jack?
No.
Why did you put that hat back on?
Well, Casey, I'll tell you why I put the hat back on. My prediction for the next game is that Clemson's about to beat Notre Dame. I think Clemson at 4-4 at home, Notre Dame coming into Clemson. I think this is a terrific spot, a sleepy noon game over there in Clemson, South Carolina. Dabo just lit a fire under the boys. I think Clemson beats Notre Dame this weekend.
Me too. I'm in on Clemson. This is one of those. I mean, I think they'll really care. Their Super Bowl will probably be destroying South Carolina at the end of the year because they really don't like losing to them.
Unless Michigan helps South Carolina win that game.
That is a good point. Unless South Carolina goes, hey, for the last 2 games last year we put armbands on. Why don't we do that again? Mm-hmm. Just for no reason, right? But surely there was no reason for putting those armbands on.
I like the idea of Shane Beamer furiously just over and over calling Jim Harbaugh's cell phone like, Coach, pick up. You picked up last year, pick up.
It would actually be pretty funny if Shane Beamer called up Connor Stallion and said, hey, heard you out of work, boy. How about you come work for us?
Let's get you back to work, boy.
Is what he said about Halloween.
I was going to say, did you see that the South Carolina fans were mad at you for your something? It wasn't a ton.
Oh, no, they're mad. Yeah.
Because of the way that you answered which head coach would get murdered in a horror movie first.
They were mad at that. I've muted all of them. I've like I don't even see that. I didn't even see.
It wasn't that many, but I was laughing.
I will say, and I mean this from the bottom of my heart. Sometimes Katie will tweet out a clip, and I'll see what I said in it. I'll be like, I don't want to see what people are going to say, and I'll just mute the conversation because I know it's like people, and I would rather them just yell into the abyss anyways.
Yeah.
All that being said, Shane Beamer, his son asked him if he was going to go to Halloween this year, trick or treat, and he said, nah, I'm 2-6. I got to stay in the film room, which I will say brought me a little bit back to Shane Beamer.
He's a football guy.
And that being said, he would
trick-or-treating.
He would die relatively early in a...
For sure.
Yeah.
Well, here's a game I skipped, and I skipped it to bring it up now, but Oklahoma is number 9 in the country, and they just lost to Kansas. And a lot of people out there are saying that Oklahoma was the fakest team in the country. Well, not a lot of people, because a lot of people aren't right. They don't have the best mind in college football. Anyway, you can Google who was right about Oklahoma. They play the final, what I assume to be the final, at least for a long time, Bedlam this weekend when they go to Oklahoma State Stillwater. Oklahoma at Oklahoma State. 6-2 rejuvenated Oklahoma State, who, by the way, when Texas and Oklahoma played, we all assumed we're heading towards a rematch. Well, guess what? If Oklahoma State wins this game, I think they're going to walk into the conference championship game to play whoever is there at the end, because Oklahoma State's schedule after this is very easy. This could be for a spot in the Big 12 championship game. Oklahoma at Oklahoma State. Casey, does Oklahoma get right this weekend?
I think they do.
Nope.
I do think Oklahoma.
No.
What? Don't ask me if you have a whole speech.
Nope. Go ahead.
No, you go ahead. Because no matter what I say, you're just going to jump on it and dance on my grave. So go ahead.
That was amazing. What do you think? I think Oklahoma. Nope.
Couldn't even give me a chance. Go ahead.
All right.
Okay, hold on. Wait, hold on. Ready?
Yeah.
Brandon, Who's going to win the final Bedlam game this weekend?
Well, it's tough to say. I mean, these are two very good teams, two evenly matched teams. The thing is, it's just going to be hard to beat Oklahoma without a running game if you're Oklahoma State. So the fact that they can't – oh, wait a minute. Time. Pause. They have maybe the best running back in the country, and they get to play a defense that just got ran all over by fucking Kansas. So Oklahoma State is winning this game. That's what's happening.
Nope. I think Oklahoma wins this game.
You think the run game is going to make all the
Oklahoma's
difference?
defense isn't that bad against the run.
Did you see them against Kansas?
They did, but I mean, like, throughout the season, they've been decent, at least from the statistical
Throughout the season, they
perspective.
haven't played Ollie Gordon. Throughout the season, they've been playing fucking.
Yeah, no, that's fair.
No, that's
You're
fair.
right.
And
We
Oklahoma State is
only
good.
have 7 data points. You're right.
But I will say, and I'm not at all taking away Kansas' win, because I do think that it's very impressive, and Oklahoma, as Brandon has said, proved to be a little tiny bit fraudulent. Is there any indication to you that could have been a look-ahead game?
Looking ahead to what? Bedlam?
Yeah, because Oklahoma State's good again. Good. I mean, obviously, you put that in air quotes, but for the Big 12 championship, this could be...
No. You don't get to act like Oklahoma fans did after they beat Texas. You don't get to be 7-0. You don't get to be in the top 5 and then have a look-ahead game against Kansas. You got to go take care of your fucking business if you want to be one of the big boys of college football.
I completely agree with that, but I don't, just in the same way that, when Texas lost to Oklahoma, I wasn't ready to say, oh, see, Texas was fraudulent. I don't think that Oklahoma is near as fraudulent as you do, but I also understand your beef with Oklahoma, but I could easily see this being a get-right game. Now, however, I don't think, if you would have asked me in week 2 or 3, I would have said Bedlam's going to be disgusting. Like, Oklahoma's going to win by 50 points, and it's going to suck because that rivalry is a fun rivalry, especially for, that state. I think it's going to be a close game. I think it's going to be a fun game, but I do think Oklahoma wins in the end. I think that Dylan Gabriel and this offense will be able to put up enough points, and I don't think Oklahoma's defense is as bad as you're leading on to be either.
Pretty bad. Okay.
Here's my question.
Yep.
This goes to the next game. Who do you think is more likely? I mean, obviously you think Oklahoma's going to lose, but I mean, Texas has a game that's very important this weekend against Kansas State. So you've got the two big boys in the Big 12 right now sitting there being like, oh shit, like this weekend's dicey.
Hold that thought. That game's coming up for me in a minute. Hold that thought.
Okay.
Hold that thought.
Okay, I'll hold it.
Let's do the categories now. Let's jump into the categories, and you hold that thought, and it's going to come up in one of my categories.
I'm holding it.
So here we go. Categories. That number 1. Casey Smith, if you could go anywhere in the country to watch a college football game this weekend, where would you go?
Brandon Walker, I would probably go to Bedlam. I know we just talked about that. I think that Bedlam would be, first of all, I hate that this rivalry is going away. I understand the thought process between Oklahoma State and Oklahoma. Been there, done that with A&M and Texas. Now, obviously, that's coming back when they play in the SEC, but that rivalry means so much to that state. And if I'm Oklahoma State right now, I'll be like, no, I don't want to play it. I'm very interested to see what Oklahoma does to bounce back. And I know, I buried Oklahoma State earlier in the season. It was easy to do after they had some horrendous losses. I think that game is going to be awesome. It's at night, and I love the points. I'm taking the over in that game for sure.
Katie Stats, if you could go anywhere in this country this weekend, where would you go?
I would be going to the same game. I think it's the end of an era. Hopefully not, but probably
it's at 3:30, not at night, right? Did I say night? Whatever.
3:30. I think it's just interested to see the game. Think it's two competing fan bases. Basically, also everything Casey said.
And there's also an element too, which anybody who has a rivalry game like this, Brandon, that Oklahoma thinks Texas is their main rival. Oklahoma State thinks Oklahoma is their main rival. And if Oklahoma State can beat Oklahoma as they send them out of the conference, that's something that these fans and fan bases will never forget. Because if you lose your last in-state rivalry game before it is different because of conference realignment, people talk about it for a long time. Jack,
if you could go anywhere in this country this weekend, where would you go?
I would go to Kansas State, Texas. Big time game. Big time. There's 2 huge games in the Big 12 this weekend, and I really want to see if Texas can take control. Obviously, Quinn Ewers is out. Malik Murphy, he kind of had a warm-up game against BYU. Now you have to play very well, dude. And I think he's gonna. Big game for Texas. Big game for Kansas State. There's a lot of hype with Kansas State. I almost think it's a little bit too much. So I'm going to roll and go to that game. Should be fun.
Brandon Walker, if you could go to one game this weekend, what would it be?
Well, here's the thing. I think there's tremendous games. Bedlam is a great choice for you guys. It's nice that Jack wants to go to Texas and everything, but as much as I love college football, and I don't like to do this I don't want to seem like I'm grandstanding or I'm doing anything like that, but I really just love America more than anything else. And like I did earlier this year admirably when Air Force played Navy and I went and saw the troops play, I'm going to do it again because the boys are getting together again. And at Mile High Field in Denver, Army and Air Force are playing. And, yeah, you guys can be selfish and go watch college football for college football reasons, but I am an American. God bless the USA. If tomorrow,
God bless the USA.
If tomorrow all the things I've worked for all my life and I had to start again with just my children and my wife, I thank my lucky stars. I think tomorrow all the things for all my life.
Don't get demonetized again.
Children and my wife.
I thank God that I live under the stars and stripes.
Because the flag still stands for freedom, and they can't take that away. America. All right. Casey.
You are just...
Casey.
Yes. Yes.
What's my next one? Upset alert? Is that next? Yep. Upset alert, Casey. What you got?
Well, I mean, both of the Big 12 games, as we've already talked about, but a game that we haven't talked about yet, and I understand that, it's a big if. We'll see what USC's defense could do. I mean, USC-Washington is an interesting spot for me. I think Washington's -3 right now. It's a night game. It's in L.A., and Washington... they obviously deserve to be where they are now. They've beaten Oregon. I think Oregon is the best team in the Pac-12, but I can't really stand by that and say that because they lost to Washington. I get that. Washington's defense is not very good. Caleb Williams and the USC offense, and I know that USC has been shaky. It's kind of like they've kind of just laid down and just said, whatever, we quit. Not Caleb Williams has, but I think this offense could score a lot of points. And I think Washington's in trouble. I do. I think this is maybe part one of the Pac-12 eating itself a little bit. I'm not going to sit here and say USC is going to win for sure, but I think Washington should definitely be nervous about this USC game.
Jack, who are you putting on upset alert?
Ole Miss against Texas A&M.
Talk to me,
I
Danny.
think Ole Miss is feeling really good. They see themselves at number 10. They are, 7-1?
Yes.
Texas A&M's coming to town.
Lane's also talking shit.
Yeah, and this could be one of those, oh, wait, we're not where we think we are. And it could be a big win. If Texas A&M wins this one, Jimbo's more than safe. And they could finish 9-3.
Jack, don't do it.
Well, no, I don't know if I agree they're going to win this game, but I agree they could win this game. And upset alert is not about predicting an upset. It's saying who needs to be careful.
Alert.
And Ole Miss better be careful. And I think yours was good too, Casey. Katie, who you got?
You and Jack mentioned it earlier, but Clemson and Notre Dame, I think it'd just be very fitting for the storyline of Clemson to go 4-4 and then beat Notre Dame. I will think it's interesting. Like, Sam Hartman kind of grew up in college football playing Clemson and playing the ACC, so he is probably the best quarterback for Notre Dame to have right now to go against them. So I'm not betting it, but I think I wouldn't be surprised to look up on Sunday morning to see that Clemson has won this game.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's a ton of teams on upset alert this weekend. I think Notre Dame is a very good answer. I think Ole Miss is a very good answer. I think Washington is a very good answer.
Georgia.
I don't think Georgia's a good answer. I think this is one of those. I think this is one of those fuck you guys where Georgia moments where a lot like a couple years ago, Arkansas was 5-0. They walked into Athens and they got beat 37-0. I feel like Missouri is a good team. They're going to finish 10-2 or 9-3, but they are not good enough to go into Athens and beat Georgia. That is my opinion about Missouri. Still driving the bus. But sometimes the bus gets a flat tire. We'll fix it. Still driving the bus. It's my bus. Missouri fans, always remember that, Missouri fans. I didn't start driving your bus. I simply let you onto my bus, okay? So it's my bus, not yours. But my answer is Texas. Texas with a backup quarterback. Texas with everything in front of it, playing a rejuvenated Kansas State team, a Kansas State team who can run the football, a Kansas State team who can score points. This is a spot. Boy, I'd sure like to see Quinn Ewers and his experience back there instead of Malik Murphy and his one game of experience, because I think Texas is in pretty big trouble this weekend against Kansas State. All right. The player you would most – what's the other one? Under the radar game. Casey, under the radar game.
An under the radar game for me will be, which I feel like is not really under the radar at all, but Michigan and Purdue. We haven't seen Michigan play since this whole thing broke. I don't think they're going to lose this game whatsoever, but I do think there's going to be a lot of eyes on what happens against Purdue. It's at home. It's at night. They're favored by like 1 billion points. But I just want to see how they win this game, because there is a lot of distraction going on. And, at the end of the day, these players probably had no idea what was going on. But if you have that much noise around your program and going on outside of the locker room, and then you have to go out and you do have to play, I'm interested to see how it happens. They're obviously going to win. It's going to be fine. But I am very, very curious to see how they win this game, because they've been beating the shit out of everybody. Their starters have not been playing in the fourth quarter a ton. I'm interested to see how they rebound from this.
If you are the mascot that plays Pistol Pete or the handler or somehow responsible, please pull like an Oregon Duck, come out with binoculars, spy gear, walk around the sidelines. Like, you have such a great opportunity to do something so funny. Like, I know probably not, because like an AD is going to get involved, but just imagine like the internet. If Pistol Pete came out.
Well, that's why it's under the radar,
because
it's not, everybody's talking about Michigan right now, but like what actually happens in that game, whether it's the mascot, the coaches, the team, like everyone's going to be paying attention to it, even though the game's going to probably be a bloodbath.
Jack, you're under the radar game.
USC Washington, I guess it's not that much under the radar, but I think we could have a massive shootout that is to the likes of 50-45, 52-45. It could be really fun. And we also are – Washington's coming off 2 really lackluster wins. That's kind of a oxymoron, saying lackluster win, but that's a great way to look at their last 2 games. And USC, it's kind of a get-right spot. Well, you have to get right spot. If not, then the season's truly a failure. And it's an opportunity for Michael Penix and even low-key Caleb Williams to get back into that Heisman race, because it's still so wide open. I'm not saying Caleb Williams is going to win it, but if he has a disgusting game and then a bunch of these other guys kind of fall off, we might look at the race and say, I guess maybe this is Caleb's award again.
Have you guys seen the total for it? Or do you know what the total is?
What is it, 73?
76.
Katie, you're under the radar game, Katie.
Mine is Penn State, Maryland. I know both are kind of down right now, especially Maryland, but kind of interested to see how Maryland's offense matches up with Penn State's defense. Obviously, kind of reaching on this one.
Before I say my under the radar game, I'm going to ask a question. How many huge Big 12 games are there this weekend?
2?
Incorrect.
I mean, define huge. Like,
yeah.
Kansas, Iowa State could be
No, Katie. No. Here's the thing. Look at the top of this race. There are 5 teams that are 4-1 in the Big 12. There are 2 teams that are 3-2. Everybody is in the mix. And Kansas State is playing Texas. That's 2 teams in the mix. Oklahoma is playing Oklahoma State. That's 2 teams in the mix. You know who else is 2 teams in the mix to make the Big 12 championship game? Kansas and Iowa State. Iowa State is 4-1. Kansas is 3-2. They already have the win over Oklahoma. This is just in the context, not nationally, but just in the context of who's going to represent the Big 12 in the title game. This game is just as big as those other 2 games. And
Which is crazy.
But it is. It is.
I know. You're right. You're 1,000% right.
And it's happening in Ames, Iowa. Another team, just like Oklahoma State was thrown out with the trash when they started bad, Iowa State was too. And here they are in November with a chance to possibly make a run at the Big 12 championship. It's a huge game. It's very under the radar.
It's 1,000% under the radar, because I wouldn't have even thought about that. I mean, I know that Kansas is ranked, but it's a great answer.
Listen. I have the best mind in college football. I think we all agree.
I just – yeah.
You walked right into that.
I know I did.
Do you think Matt Campbell is saving? Because I think earlier in the season, he was yelling at the fans, people mad at him. Like, is he kind of back to obviously not back to 2020, but
he's
how
fine.
close is he?
He's fine. He's fine. He's good.
He's just not going to be like they're not. His name isn't like the number one on people's lists anymore.
No, I mean I don't think he's going to get the Michigan State job or anything, but I think he's fine at Iowa State. All right, Jack. If you could see any player in the country this weekend, who are you going to see?
Any player in the country, I want to see yet again Malik Murphy.
I'll double down so we don't even have to go. We don't have to spend too much time. I agree.
Yeah, I
with
think this is a big game for him. Second game, you got the cobwebs off.
Yeah.
Now, this is your moment. Go out there, take it, and after that, you may have you can pick any school in the country to go to next year.
Yeah, and like you said, Brandon, it's to see what happens in the Big 12 race. I mean, Kansas State coming to Austin, it's a noon or I guess 11 a.m. in Texas kickoff. Like it's an early morning game for them, and let's see what he can do because if Quinn Ewers was there, we might feel a little bit differently. But if he beats Kansas State, they're probably sitting pretty till they decide to start Arch Manning.
Katie, your player to watch.
Michael Penix Jr., I think he's also, first, he's going to out the casuals because I think he has a chance to do really, really insane numbers that everyone who knows college football is like, okay, it's USC, what do you expect? But I feel like someone out there is going to be like, wow, he's Heisman, this, that. I'm like, it's USC, pipe down. But I think he can also just put up insane numbers and kind of restore, maybe like it's like the confidence boost that he probably lost versus Arizona's and Stanford. Brandon Walker, what is your one player to watch?
Yeah, it's Jaden Daniels at Alabama. It's I think if I were given the Heisman out today, based on how everybody's played this year, he would be the Heisman winner to me. However, outside of the opener against Florida State, which he lost, he has put up the numbers he's put up against pretty bad defenses. Like Ole Miss is a very good team. They don't have a very good defense. Arkansas, bad defense. Auburn, bad defense. Like he's put up numbers against some bad defenses. Well, now he gets to go to Tuscaloosa. Remember 2019 when Joe Burrow won the Heisman? What did he have to do? He had to go to Tuscaloosa and prove it, and he did it.
Mm-hmm.
Jaden Daniels has to go in there and win this game and be good doing it. He's my player to watch. All right? I think that's a good spot to end it right there.
Also, no one said Florida State Pittsburgh upset alert.
No, I think they're probably fine. I mean, I think Pitt already got their big win over Louisville. I don't see them running it back. I just don't think they're good enough.
Brandon, before we head out though, it's not just college football season. It's also MLB postseason. The NFL's happening. It's the sports equinox, and we've got a deal at HBO Max right now. Brandon, you and I both know that's a big deal.
It is, and also just FYI, I love HBO Max. I love Max, and I watch it all the time. And what you can do is get into the game with the Bleacher Report Sports Add-on Max. Let me read that again. Get into the game with the Bleacher Report Sports Add-on on Max. Select live game. You can stream select live games from the MLB postseason, basketball, NBA, NHL, men's and women's soccer, men's March Madness, everything. It's a front row seat to every thrilling moment, every amazing play, and every unbelievable highlight. Max is the one to watch for the best in entertainment, streaming 24/7 live news and now live sports. Also, not part of the ad, but they have the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, the entire series, so I watch it a lot on there, and it's fantastic. And
How
Family
many
Matters.
times have you rewatched it?
Family Matters is also on Max, and I love Steve Urkel. That is my...
How many times have you rewatched Fresh Prince of Bel-Air?
How many times have I rewatched it? 200?
Yeah. Is that your most watched TV show?
No, not even. It's probably not top 5.
That's crazy.
Jeez.
I've seen Entourage probably about, I'm not even kidding, probably 35 times.
And
through.
you know where
That's
you
on
can
Max.
see? You know where you can see Entourage?
Succession. Max, that's what I'm saying. Also,
No.
best show of all time, Succession on Max.
The
Sopranos.
Bleacher Report Sports Add-on included for a limited time with any Max subscription. After the promotional period, add Bleacher Report Sports starting at $9.99 a month. Base subscription required. Sign up now at max.com/sports.
Big weekend. I'm excited for all these games. Brandon, I'm very excited for the college football show. So if you are listening or watching this, it is a studio show. It's at 10 a.m. on Saturday, and I assume there's going to be fireworks.
One more question.
Yep.
Are you guys taking the under in Iowa Northwestern?
Yes.
29.5.
Yes.
It's
We
also
have to.
it's also in Wrigley Field. That's just a phenomenal. That is a terrifically shitty football game. It's unbelievable.
It's terrifically, amazingly shitty, and it wouldn't be fun to take the over. Like it would be very, very boring to root for points in that game.
I think what you have to do is you parlay the team total unders for both teams and then under for the game.
Jack, also good luck
Just root
against
for
Tennessee.
chaos.
That would be against.
Yeah, I don't
They
think
would
you
not
can
let
do
that
I don't
happen.
think you can do
Yeah.
I did it. I did it for like Iowa
All
2
right.
years ago on the road.
Good luck against
7 to
Tennessee,
9.
Jack.
All right.
Yes.
Here we go. That is unnecessary roughness.